Cheers, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Bob Dickerson within the black. Hey, listen, I got a nice glass. Wow, bottle. A nice glass. This is a really full glass, too. A big red wine glass with full of white wine. This is some Cabernet or Sauvignon Blanc, I think. Sauvignon Blanc. I prefer Sauvignon Blanc. I wish this was just a little colder, but yeah. Cheers, everybody. Happy Wednesday. As you can see, I just finished the treadmill, so now I'm treating myself with a glass of white wine. So how about that? I did 3 miles. I feel pretty good. Ran and walked. I didn't run the whole time. I don't know if I can run 3 miles straight right now. I probably have to stop a couple of times. But anyway, I can make the 3. I can get it in. So I got it in, and really I wore this is my Argentina soccer Adidas jersey. So don't get mad at me. It was what I pulled out when I got ready to get on the treadmill. I had a full day today. Got a lot of stuff done. So I'll tell you this, and I am so thankful. But I had the opportunity, and a lot of my friends, especially folks my age, can relate to this, because most of us don't, at almost 70 years old, get a chance to take our mothers to the doctor. And so I'm so thankful that I had the chance today to take my mother to several of her doctor's visits, and just to have her with us, and not just with us, but doing well. Good reports from the doctors that she visited today. 91 years old. I guess I can tell her age now. And so I'll do that. But anyway, just to be able to take her is such a blessing. I've said this for years, and my brother and sister and I have all commented how blessed and fortunate we are to have our mother still with us. And I remember when my mother and father had their 60th wedding anniversary, which was, about 11 years ago now. I made that comment then, so it is even more true now. So anyway, had a great day spending time with Mildred T. Dickerson. Got a chance to visit one of her students, Teresa, who is a great businesswoman herself. So anyway, it was a good day. I got to start off by congratulating the Baylor Bears men's basketball team. Boy, they put something on Gonzaga. And we decided last week that we would pronounce it Gonzaga as opposed to Gonzaga, because their nickname is the Zags. And so since we're going to call them the Zags, then we're going to call the school Gonzaga. But Baylor really put something on it. It was a beat down pretty much from start to finish. It was really a good game. And the Zags didn't go away. They played their best, but I think they were a little bit overmatched. I think the size and strength and quickness and hunger. So I think that Baylor had those 4 things going for itself. They were bigger and stronger, and they were a lot more aggressive. And they were hungry for it. And not to say that Gonzaga didn't have the desire. I mean, they had a great year. They are a great team. There is no question about that. But it was no match, Karen and Marquita. How you doing? No match Monday night. And look, I don't want anybody to get mad at me. So I got to give Stanford, the Stanford women, their kudos for beating Arizona in the women's college national basketball championship. So hats off to both of those teams. Great games. Now, let me drink to those. Take that. I might just be thirsty. I may just need water. But anyway, we just want to share that. I'm a sports fan, but with so it's baseball season now. Major leagues just started. I'm going to circle back and talk about the All-Star game. But, I'm not as big a sit down and watch sports on TV guy as I used to be. Now, part of that is because I watched a lot of sports during my life, and I remember a time when, Sunday, you know, at around noon, I was in front of the TV and I was watching the NFL. Saturday around the same time, or maybe even earlier, I was watching game day and college football. Watched every Monday night game. When Sunday night started, watched all the Sunday night games. And so now I don't watch as much sports on TV as I used to. So I don't watch a lot of NBA during the regular season. I'll catch a snippet here and there. I'll catch it on Sports Center. I kind of keep up with it. I know who's pretty good. I know who's pretty bad. I can pretty much tell you who the top players in the league are most of the time. But I don't really sit down and watch it. And I don't really sit down and watch college basketball until, it gets toward the end of the year, the conference tournaments and the March Madness. And so now I've kind of got this lull between now when the baseball season is just beginning and the NBA is sort of mid-season. And I may watch a game here and there, but if it's raining, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I started playing golf. And so I'm unlikely to pass up a nice afternoon during the weekend unless there's a game that I really want to see. And how you doing today? Anthony Marshall, my high school classmate. I appreciate you being out there, brother. So I'm in this lull, and I like baseball. Played baseball as a kid coming up. But yeah, just to watch that. So while we're talking about baseball, that kind of is a segue to some of the things that I wanted to really talk about today, which is the fact which is the fact that this whole idea of the state of Georgia, and let's face it now, Georgia is not Oklahoma. Georgia is not Iowa. It's not Indiana. It's not Montana. It's a very popular state, even though there are a lot of rural areas in Georgia, but you've got Atlanta there. And Atlanta makes Georgia something special. And if you take Atlanta away from Georgia, nobody would, well, they might not care it. You take Atlanta away from Georgia and, it might be Mississippi. Who knows? Nothing against Mississippi. Please don't get mad at me. Don't write me. Don't call me. Hey, James, how you doing? But Georgia has become very important, and it's been very important for a while. And that importance really is tied to Atlanta being in Georgia, a popular U.S. city, somewhere where we look at it. And I don't know what just happened when my phone rang. I hope everybody's still out there. Let's see if I can get us back in case we're gone. I think we're still up for some reason. Let's see if we can get the computer back on here. Well, there we go. All right. You all could probably see me. I couldn't see myself. But anyway, so Atlanta's scheduled to host the All-Star game. Georgia's state legislature, Republican-led, they didn't overturn the presidential election. Good for them for that. But their immediate response, and I've said this before on this program, their immediate response was to almost say, even out loud, Sean, how you doing? This won't happen again. We won't get beat by the black folks again. We won't get beat by the Democrats again. We're going to do whatever it takes to make sure we can win. Well, what it takes for them to make sure they can win, they've decided, and most Republicans seem like they bought into this notion, they've decided that what it takes for them to win is to make sure that folks like me and you don't vote. What it takes for them to win is to limit our access to the ballot. And so they've taken these steps to limit access to the ballot. Now, they can make all the excuses they want to make that, oh, well, we're just creating this election security. Now, we don't need election security because even in the era of COVID-19, all of the experts say that this was the most secure, meaning there was no fraud. This election was fair across the board. The right person won. The person that the people wanted, and the people that the majority of the people in Georgia and other places wanted, won those elections. Yes, Georgia elected 2 Democratic senators. Why? Because black folks turned out, and white folks that wanted the Democrats turned out, and folks like Sonny Perdue and all of those other folks really didn't end up being who the majority of the people wanted. That's what it's about. So now, Georgia steps out. They're a very popular state because of Atlanta. The Atlanta Braves are hosting the All-Star game up until last week. There's a lot of pressure now put on corporate America, and especially on corporate Atlanta. Atlanta is home to 40 Fortune 500 companies or some number. I didn't do the research. I probably should have. But a lot of Fortune 500 companies, a lot of major corporations have significant presence and headquarters in Atlanta. Coca-Cola, Delta, being among those. And these folks had a lot of pressure on them, and they needed to do something. And they stood up and they made a statement, and it wasn't the loudest, it wasn't the most forceful statement that I think they could have made, and maybe they will in time, but Major League Baseball made a decision that the folks in Georgia, a lot of the folks in Georgia don't like, and maybe even some folks that look like us in Georgia don't like, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it really took a lot of courage. It was, I think, the right statement to make, to say that if you're a state that is adamantly going to come out and exhibit this kind of antiquated, old-fashioned, Jim Crow type attitude, create these kinds of rules, foster this kind of dissent really against democracy, to prevent folks from being able to vote, then we're not going to stand for it. And they pull the All-Star game. Now, I want to say this, that there were a lot of black folks in Georgia that would have made money had the All-Star game been in Atlanta. And I do feel for them. You know, we kind of sometimes use this term, and I'm not using it, but I want to indicate it. We use this, well, collateral damage. And I certainly wouldn't want to be referred to as collateral damage if, you know, there were hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake, and I just lost it because some folks in my legislature, you know, did something that was really inane, did something that was really silly, did something that was really, really bad, and cost me money. So keep in mind, when you start casting the blame and you want to blame Major League Baseball for pulling it, then let's don't blame them first. Let's blame the governor. Let's blame those senators and members of the Georgia House. Let's blame those folks first, because had it not been for their actions in this public and very, in most people's opinions, asinine way of throwing us back into what felt like and looked like, and most people referred to as 21st century Jim Crow, then you still be having an All-Star game in Atlanta, you know. So when the governor says, and then Trump comes out and says, well, you know, I don't like baseball anyway. I don't like baseball anyway. Well, Trump ought to be. So I guess what we need to figure out, or what some folks need to figure out, is if Trump is for it, you damn well need to be against it, because he has been wrong. He's been on the wrong side of so many issues. I can't really think of one he's been on the right side of. Maybe one. So he's been wrong so much. So, you know, you ought to use Trump as a barometer. If Trump likes it, you probably need to hate it. If he wants to go left, then you probably need to take off right as fast as you can. And so he comes out, he says, oh, baseball is no good anyway. So that's a Trumpism, and he's good at using those. But the bottom line is the state of Georgia, the governor, the legislators, the senators, the folks that were elected to help Georgia just heard it. Major League Baseball did what it had to do. The CEOs of Coke and Delta said almost what they had to say. A lot of corporations have been saying some really good things for almost the past year since the George Floyd killing. And so, we've all been watching that trial. But none of them have said quite enough, in my opinion, but they have said something. Well, these folks are saying what they have to say, what they need to say, whether they believe it or not. And I was so amused that that Mitch McConnell says that baseball or that major corporations ought to stay out of politics unless they're giving money. Now that's not me talking. I'm not making that up. You can go check it out. You can look at it. You can Google it. You can pull it up. He says that major corporations need to stay out of politics unless they're giving money. Come on, Mitch. The American political system is owned by the money. I mean, you and your folks are owned by the money. You do what the money tells you to do. So, you got some money telling you to do one thing and some other money that's doing something else. And because the something else money seems to be winning the day right now, you want to say, let's get money out the way. We shouldn't even be dealing with that. These major corporations, Coca-Cola, Delta, IBM, they ought to stay out of it. And let us be as racist as we want to be, and let us keep winning by suppressing the vote of Black and brown people. And let us keep winning by making sure that we don't let more brown people into this country coming from Mexico and Central America. And let us keep winning by closing down polling places. Let us keep winning by saying that, you can't vote because you don't have this kind of ID. Let us keep winning by saying, well, you can't vote because you couldn't get to the polls between 7 and 7 on a Tuesday. So let us keep winning. That's what we need to do. You stay out of it and let us keep winning. And that's probably one of the most asinine, stupid, and just blatantly dishonest statements that a leading elected official, a politician, not a statesman, a politician could make, is we need to keep business out of politics. Politics is business. Politics is owned by business. As a matter of fact, economics owns politics and not the other way around. Not the other way around. If it were the other way around, then the folks that we've elected in our offices, local offices, would have been able to do more for us. But they can't, because they have to play to the folks that put them in office with their money. And so the money and money interests have the power. And so these money interests are telling you that you are dead wrong, that this law was dead wrong. There are going to be lawsuits coming out the yang. We've not heard the end of it. And I'm just proud of baseball. I'm happy that some major corporations stepped up and said something about it. But I really wish there was more said. So what I really want to see him do is when Mitch McConnell, now he's got a war chest, probably got millions of dollars in his campaign fund. But guess what? If all of these major corporations that have these political action committees were to do a couple of things, it would make a difference in the political landscape in our country. Number one, and some of them have already said they do that, but every senator or member of the U.S. House of Representatives that voted to overturn or not to accept the results of the free and fair election that happened on November 6th ought to not be able to get any of that PAC money from the corporations that we support. And we support corporations, and those corporations take their money sometimes from their employees and they have these political action committees, and they give money to candidates. And if you go down the candidates disclosure form and you look at Richard Shelby's, you're going to see every major corporation in Alabama and some from across the country that gave him money. I dare say, and I haven't looked at Tuberville's, you're going to see the same thing for Tuberville. And so if these major corporations were to stop, and if they were to not give money to those folks that voted not to accept the results of this free and fair election, we'd make a difference. We probably would turn some folks out of Washington, D.C. and may have a better Congress if we did. That's number one. Number two, if the major corporations and even some of the smaller groups, not necessarily the Fortune 500s, but the smaller ones, looked at what their state legislators were doing in places like Georgia and did not financially support folks who were anarchists and folks who have these subversive kinds of actions and folks who want to, eliminate and keep folks from voting, a sacred right in America among all of our citizens, then we might have some different state legislatures. We might put people in who actually care more about the people than the party. Because that's not what we got now, especially on the Republican side. And I usually vote Democrat, but I'm going to tell the truth. If it were the other way around, I would tell the truth because, I'm not wedded to anyone, but I see what I see, and we hear what we hear, and what we've heard out of the Republicans for a long time is something that I feel doesn't benefit me, my family, or the people I care about. So I just want to get that out there. Thank you to baseball. I want to say one other thing and just kind of hit on one more thing before I move on and before I get out of here, because I'm looking at the clock. Boy, time flies when I'm on this thing. But I mentioned this, and I want to just talk about it. I'm going to talk about it more in a couple of weeks to come. We've got some opportunities, people, for our leaders. These are the leaders that we have elected and put in place that we care about. But we've got some opportunities for them to help us make a difference. But what we need them to be is courageous. We need them to be more outspoken. We need them to not try to go along to get along. We don't need them to say, well, I couldn't really be as forceful as I needed to be because I didn't want to lose it all. Well, I'm saying, forget that. When it's time to represent your people, when it's time to represent people who've been downtrodden, spat on, killed, depressed, deprived, robbed, everything else that we can think of, then don't be passive. Go for the gusto. And so that's what I would like to see our elected officials do, especially in this moment, especially in this moment when we got George Floyd's killer on trial. We don't know what's going to happen with that, and it's not going to bring him back regardless of what happens. But in this moment when major corporations, both nationally and locally, say that they want to do something, and they've got this new awakening, this new consciousness around racial equity. Well, let's push the envelope. Let's don't let them off the hook. Let's don't let them off the hook. And we, of all people, cannot live, especially those of us who are in leadership positions. We cannot afford to be quiet. We cannot afford to be passive. And especially if you've been elected to be a leader. Now, I've never been elected to be anything. I'm just going to talk my stuff because I want to talk it, and I'm going to tell the truth. And if you don't like it, I don't really, I care about what folks think and say, but I'm not going to not tell the truth or tell half of the truth because I'm trying to get along with somebody. And I expect our leaders to be the same way. Now, don't be wrong. Make sure that you fact check. Make sure that you can stand up to the things that you say. But if you say the man owes you $5.43 and he says, well, here's $1.50, don't say thank you, master. I appreciate it. I'm glad that's $1.50, that more than I had. Well, yeah, it's $1.50 more than you had, but you know, and take the $1.50 and say, now you still owe me whatever the difference is. Don't make me do math online. But you get what I'm saying? That's what we got to do. We got to have people who are, you know, who are courageous enough to lose a friend because they told the truth. Courageous enough to even lose an election because they stood up for what's right. Hey, I want to just tell you a couple of things. All right, number one, you got all of our websites on the screen somewhere. MyBDRC.biz, A.G. Gaston, GastonBusinessInstitute.com. Now, on the A.G. Gaston Business Institute, I want you to be sure, if you're in business, if you know someone who's in business, make sure that you get your business registered in our database. We want to know who you are. We want to promote the fact that you're out there. We want other folks who are looking to do business with folks that look like us to know who you are, where you are, what you sell, and how they can spend some money with you. That's number one. Number two, on the BDRC side, we are actively trying to help historically underutilized businesses sell. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. I've said that many times. There was a plaque on Lou Willie's wall when I worked for Citizens Trust Bank, but it's true. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. We want to try to help you make some sales. If you can make some sales, then we can help you with money. If you can make some sales, then you can employ some folks. If you can make some sales, then you can feed your family. And if you don't make sales, you're not going to do any of those. And so we want to try to help you sell. We're having these opportunity forums, trying to make sure that business people in our area understand where the opportunities are. Also, keep in mind, if you need our help, if you need us to counsel with you, coach you, review your business plan, work with you in any way to try to help you in business, that's what we're there for. We enjoy doing it. We have the expertise, the experience, the knowledge and know-how to do it. And it's what's in us. It's part of our DNA. We have got to create more economic empowerment through developing successful business enterprises in our community. It's been our mission. We've got to start businesses. We've got to have folks succeed in business. More of us have to become employers. And so, you know, anything that we can do at the BDRC or anything that I can do personally that will help you start, grow, and develop your small business, it is my pleasure, my honor, and I'm at your service. This is Bob Dickerson with NTHBLK. Have a great rest of your